We begin with breaking news in one of the special counsel's investigations of Donald Trump. A federal grand jury here in Washington has voted to indict the former president for his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Among the charges include conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an official proceeding, and a civil rights era law that makes it a crime to oppress, threaten, or intimidate a person of their free exercise or enjoyment of any right in the Constitution. It is just the second time in American history that the Department of Justice has filed criminal charges against a current or former U.S. president. Special counsel Jack Smith announced the indictment just moments ago. Today's charges are related to Trump's attempts to challenge the result of an election he lost, plans for fake electors, and his role in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Trump responded to today's news on his social media account, calling Smith deranged and the indictment election interference. CBS News' Robert Costa has today's late-breaking details and starts us off tonight. Robert, good evening.
Good evening, Major. An historic day with the former president and the current Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump, being accused by the Justice Department of spearheading a criminal conspiracy against the United States.
According to the indictment, for more than 2 months following Election Day, the defendant spread lies that there was fraud in the election and he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew they were false.
The former president was also charged with impeding the January 6th congressional proceeding where the 2020 election outcome was to be verified and led to the storming of the Capitol by Trump supporters.
The attack on our nation's Capitol on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant.
The indictment lists 6 unnamed co-conspirators. The actions described possibly match the conduct of former Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani, lawyer John Eastman, and a former Justice Department official. The indictment also says Trump and some of the co-conspirators attempted to reach senators late on January 6 to ask them to delay the certification vote even more so they could get states to object to the count. Sources tell CBS News former President Trump's legal team is now mapping out a new strategy to push back on the charges, shifting blame onto lawyers who were advising him at the time of the aftermath of the 2020 election. In a recent social media post, Trump noted his attorneys met with the Department of Justice, saying they explained in detail that I did nothing wrong and was advised by many lawyers. Sources say the strategy could involve trying to pin blame on John Eastman, Trump's former lawyer, who sought to have former Vice President Mike Pence refuse to certify the 2020 election results, and presented Trump with a memo outlining a plan to do so. But those familiar with the special counsel's work say Trump's conduct is being deeply investigated, and that prosecutors are skeptical that Trump was just following advice.
Just because an attorney gives you advice, an attorney does not provide a defense if the attorney is suggesting you go out and violate a criminal law. That's not a defense.
The next step in this process will come on Thursday when former President Donald Trump has been summoned to appear in Washington before the grand jury in federal court.
Robert, let's talk about the president's potential lines of defense. The indictment lists 6 unindicted co-conspirators, and the president has said on his social media account, or at least implied, that he was taking advice. Could that, I was just taking advice from lawyers, provide him with the means by which to defend himself against these charges?
That is the defense that is being mounted by former President Trump's legal team. But as a federal prosecutor just told CBS News, just because a lawyer advises you something doesn't necessarily mean you have to take that advice. And if the lawyer is advising you on something that could be breaking the law, you would be breaking the law if you go along with that advice. So the special counsel, based on our reporting, does not believe that Trump's argument is going to hold water as this case moves forward. And instead, they're focusing on the advice Trump got and also how he tried to push the lawyers along to say to them, let's really try to make this happen and have me stay in power.
Robert Costa, thank you so much for being with us.